This video has literally been 4 years in the making, and I'm talking about my conversion to fiber optic from copper phone and internet service. I finally did it because I had to, because the copper is being shut down in my area. So here is the process from beginning to end, including some old shots. Look at the old street light there. It's probably a 150 watt sodium, either that or I don't think it was a 400. I think it was a 150 watt sodium, but they've been changed out now. They've put LEDs up now, and I tell you, the new LEDs are nowhere as bright as those old ones were. But the guy here, this is the contract firm. They are spinning up the fiber up the street, and they marched up the street 5 years ago to the day. This is just placing the NAP, or the network access ports, that the drops are connected to. And then a few months later, another crew came up and put up the individual drops to the house, and then it sat for 5 years before I got around to actually switching over. So that's called the NAP, the network access port. So one guy is hooking up the NAP. His partner is stringing out the fiber to the next span, so that once they've got it attached to the pole, they can just drive up the street and spin the cable up. For those that want to be technically correct, it's called a cable lasher that they use to spin the lashing wire around the cable. You can see it spinning around there, and that's lashing the new fiber up to the existing strand. As you can see, he has two strands going up, one to the NAP that he just put up, and then next one to the NAP that's further up the street. And then when he adds the NAP on the pole in front of my house, there'll be three strands that go back to the main splice, which will then be spliced into the main feeder cable. Every time they get to an obstruction, they have to stop, remove the lasher, tie down the lashing wire, and then move it to the other side of the pole, or the other side of the obstruction, before they can continue.
What's that big coil hanging over there?
So at every pole, the spinner has to be removed from the messenger, and the spinner wire has to be manually cut and tied down. Otherwise, it's going to unravel and the cables are going to fall down. So you have to cut it, spin it up manually, and attach it to either to an RA or to some other fastener that's already on the pole, or onto what we call a span clamp. So you'll tie it up to the pole there and hook it up to an existing span clamp that's in place. And then he'll put the spinner on the other side and continue down to the next pole. Now he picks up another NAP. They place these typically every 2 poles. So then all the individual drops that go to the homes either go to the pole in front or the next pole down. You'll notice as he starts to lash that there's other cables that are above the lasher. Those are drops that are fed off this pole going to other homes. We don't want to lash the drops to the messenger. So he's got them separated. Just the 3 new feeders that are being lashed up to the messenger, and the old existing copper and CATV line is being lashed up. So he clips to the safety line. Once he gets the fiber fished down the mast there, he's gone. His job is done. Then the next crew takes over. Well, here we have it today. I'm going to work on the fiber installation into my house. Now, I already showed you guys the video of the crew pulling fiber up the street. and I'm doing all my own inside work. And the reason I can film this for you guys today is because today's my day off. So here's the protector for right now, the copper that comes into the house, and that white coil you see, that is the new fiber that's coming off the drop that the installer that hung the drop left. The black one is what's going to go into the house. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to put connectors on both ends and verify that we have continuity from one end to the other. So let's get started. I'm using the Corning splicing kit. There are different ones out there. The one that I use is a Corning. Okay, first thing I do is I get my connectors out, and I'll have to go get another pack of connectors. I'm down to my last couple of connectors here. We'll do this one first. So the first thing I do is I prep the cleaver first of all. So this is the cleaver. The cleaver is used to cut the fiber at a proper angle so that it will splice onto the fittings. We're not doing fusion splicing here. These are just all mechanical splice. So we close the cleaver down. This is the jig that is used to cleave the fiber. And this is actually the device that does the actual splice. We put the fiber in here, the end goes in here, and then we basically push this button. And what this does is this turns this 90 degrees, it turns the cam 90 degrees, and that locks the fiber in, and then we crimp it. But first thing we have to do is load the end. So I take the connector off the end here. It's essential that this is kept clean as well. Make sure that this hasn't been cammed, which it hasn't. And then this connector fits into the application tool, and then we can turn it on. And if we get a flashing yellow light here, it's bad. If we get a green light, it's good. So that means that part's ready to go. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to prep the cable. I've got an awful lot of excess cable here, so I'm just going to trim it down to size. I don't need 10 feet of cable, but I will leave myself about 5. So I'm just going to cut it with my ultra sharp. These ones are actually Miller. I also have Klein, but these ones are Miller electrician's scissors. Exceptionally sharp for cutting fiber. Then I'm going to remove the sheath. So I'll remove about that much. So I'm just going to give it a little. There we go. See, you thought I cut the fiber there, right? But no, I just removed the sheath. Now this stuff here, this yellow crap, this is actually Kevlar. So we're going to remove that. Next, we need to expose the fiber because this is still a sheath over the fiber. So next, we get the next tool. This has got 2 sizes on it. It's got one for removing the sheath and one for actually removing the coating on the sheath. So first things first, I'm going to put a boot over the fiber. Okay, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the outer jacket from the sheath. So we just nick it like that, and then this will pull. Now this is the optical fiber that I'm talking about, and this still has a coating on it. I'm going to put it into the jig and line it up with the mark here on the end. That gives me my 12 millimeters. Then I use my tool again, and this time I'm going to use the finer point, and I'm going to remove that coating. So now I've removed the coating from the fiber. I now have to clean the fiber before I cleave it. So for that, we have a fiber wipe. Get some alcohol and just clean the fiber. Now the fiber is ready for cleaving. To cleave the fiber, I depress the 2 buttons on my cleaver. I insert the fiber through, and it's magnetic. It'll hold the fiber in place. Release the 2 buttons, press the cleave button, the blue one, and then the black button. And now I've left the piece. This is the piece that has to go into that sharps bin. So I'm not going to remove it from here until I'm done. So now I've got my cleaved fiber at the proper length. And remove it from the jig. Now this piece of fiber has to be threaded into the hole right there on the bottom. So, I don't know if I can see this on camera or not, but I can certainly see what I'm doing. I just push the fiber in through like that and push the button, and if I get a green light, it's good. If I get a red light, it's bad. I got a red light. Try that again. Make sure it's seated all the way. Green light. Then I turn this little clip here at the bottom, and everything is good. Got a green light still. I can open this up. Now without pressing this button, because that would uncam it, I'm just going to press the load button now, and that will remove the fiber. You can turn that off. Bring the boot up to the bottom of it here to protect it. And put on the actual connector. And that fiber is now ready to go. That's how simple it is. To verify that the fiber is working and that I don't have any damage to it, I have this laser that I'm going to, you can see that flashing, I'm sure. That laser, I plug it into here. And on the other end of the fiber, I should see a red flashing light, which will indicate that there's been no damage during the pulling of this fiber, because it was quite a long pull through some conduits to get to the other end. So now I go to the other side and verify that the light is working, put the other connector on, and then we'll deal with this one. So here's the fiber coming in. It should have the red light flashing on it, which you can of course see that it does. So the fiber is good. So we're going to put our connector on this end. And then I'll just leave this coiled up in the equipment closet, which is right next to the shop here. It's just on the other side of the hall. So as soon as I cleave this, it'll break it. Now, of course, the light is out. But now it's cut at the right angle to go into the connector. Green light. That means good. The reason I got the red light before is because the sun was shining on it, and I was getting so much interference from the sun that I was getting red light. It's funny, why am I getting a red light? I know I put this on right, but as soon as I shaded the fiber from the direct sun, the red light went away and the green light came on. So now we just undo that. Now you see that's what it looks like on the end. And we put that on. Put the rest of the connector on. And then I put, because I'm done with this for now until I finish the installation, I'm going to put a protective cover on here. And I'm going to wind this up and put it back in the closet. So inside the interface box, we put in one of these coupling units, which just snaps down in there, and that allows the fiber to pass through. So the fiber going into the house, which is here, it will be attached into one side of this and the rest of it coiled up inside. And the same for the incoming fiber. So say there's still copper in this box because I'm still on copper service. So we just take the fiber and we wind it around the inside of the box here. This way it keeps the fiber at its, without exceeding its minimum bend radius. We coil it up, because if you kink the fiber too sharply, it'll attenuate the light. Now if this was connected at the other end and there was light on here, I'd put my light meter on and verify that it's working. I don't need to do that because it's dead on the other end, but I know that this is applied correctly because I do it right every time. So I'm going to check the speed on ADSL before I switch over. I'm on a 75 meg service, and as you can see, I'm getting around 64, 65 megabits. Now, there's stuff going on. There's TVs and stuff running right now, which is taking a bit of that bandwidth. But I'm getting 65 megs on my laptop over Wi-Fi, and the upload speed is around 19, which is what it's supposed to be. 75 down and 20 up is basically the maximum. And I've been dealing with this forever, but not for long, as I'm going to switch the fiber over, and then we're going to see a dramatic increase in the speed. So let's do it. So today is the day I'm going to finally install fiber into my house. So I arrive at the cabinet, I got to unlock it and plug in my assigned fiber strand to my assigned port. So this is the inside of the fiber cabinet. These are all the fibers that go to various homes. And mine has been assigned down here on the splitter down here. It's XGS, which is the super high speed port. And it's got to find my actual fiber in the parking lot, which is where the cable is stowed. It's right down in here. So I just have to find my assigned strand and plug it in. Got my assigned strand. Gonna remove it from the parking lot and plug it into my assigned port. And that's done just by removing the cap and plugging it in just like that. And then we just dress the cable and then go to the house to hook up the equipment at the house. Now I should point out that each one of these is identical, right? Each one of these strands go to a specific address. And there's two different technologies, which I'll explain in a bit. There's what's called GPON and there's XGS, and the only difference between the two of them is the wavelength of light that is used. These ports here can support up to 1.5 gigabits per service, and these ones can support up to 2.5 gigabits. Even though I don't have that type of speed, I've just been assigned an XGS port only because, well, we've run out of ports. The rest of them are full. So because there was no extra ports available, I was assigned on one of these higher speed ports, which is fine. But right now there's only a few people. 1, 2, 3, 4. Looks like there's 5 people running on that port right now out of a maximum of 32. Each one has an input that splits optically. This is an optical splitter. So the feeder goes in and it's optically split. So the same signal comes out all 32 ports. And it's all based on timing. You get your slice of time for transmitting and receiving data. So once that's done, close up the cabinet and then head to the premise. In this case, my house. From here, the fiber connects into the house. There's the fiber there. Now, I already spliced this. I did this part years ago when I ran the fiber into my place. About 4 years ago, I did all this. So I'll show you some highlights from that video. To show the process that was used, this was done with the OptiSnap system by Corning, which we no longer use. We use the AFL system. This is one of the older systems, which I think was superior to the newer ones. The light level is, the light losses are much lower with this type of connector. That's the mess in the NID box. Once it's connected, we'll be disconnecting the copper line, the 2 copper lines now, which have the ADSL modem connected to it. This is my Nokia XGS ONT. I'm obviously covering up the serial number for security reasons. But the fiber comes into here. It's got its power connected, and I've got a data feed going into my modem, and of course the telephone line going to my phone. And this is battery backed up with a backup battery in case the power goes out. That's located right next to it right here. Everything's up high up on the ceiling. Battery backup, so that if the power goes out, my phone continues to run. And I guess I could run my internet off it too if I just plug if I needed internet without Wi-Fi, I could just bring an Ethernet cable and plug it into here and use my laptop, for example, if there was a power failure. Because this is for internet and TV and phone. That feeds into the back of my router here, to the WAN input. I've used one of the purple cables, which is the Cat7 line that we use for like the 2.5 service. And I use that just as a marker, as a way to know which is the input, because all my cables are all bundled and there's a mess in here. A mess of wires, as you can see. There we go, PC Mag Speed Test Custom. This is one we're going to test it with because it doesn't run a lot of ads on the screen. So let's just see what type of speeds I'm going to get now that I'm on fiber. And I've put in shots from previous videos before showing you what I was getting before, but let's just test the speed here now that I've got fiber up and running. Now I'm not on a particularly high speed plan. I'm on internet 75. But right now we're giving everybody 150, but as you can see, that's even faster to 150. I'm getting like 178 down, 179 up, 180 up. It's not bad for a 150 service. Six millisecond ping, 0 milliseconds jitter. And of course I can do the same test. You see, it even goes faster than that when it first starts. Goes up to over 200 initially, the initial burst, and then it's throttled back to like 180. We'll see how the other test sites fare. Also, I'll show you the difference with between, say, Firefox and this is Chrome. As you can see, it's even doing better. This one's doing even better from this site, a little bit, but 180 megs, even with all the ads that are popping up on the screen. Okay, same type, 177. I'll do it under Firefox and we'll show you how much slower Firefox is, because it's not as fast a browser as Chrome is. So let me just close this down. I'll open up Firefox. Okay, let's see how well this one fares compared to under Chrome. $134.1 on the download. The upload is still fast. Now this might be because it's scanning for ads, because it has Ad Block Pro built in. But certainly it's not as fast. If I look at it on this one, 134.1, 180. How about speedtest.net? And it's doing okay. So for some reason the PC Mag speed test does not show as good, and ads still snuck through, but the other ones didn't pop up. Well, one popped up. But yeah, so I mean, there's the PC Mag speed test does not fare as well with Firefox as it does with Chrome. That's interesting, because we see the speeds right here. Tested them both, and this is not the first time I've run this test. This is a repeatable test. It'll come up much lower on the download every time under Firefox than it does under Chrome for the PC Mag site. Anyway, it's fast. I'm not complaining about the speed, that's for sure. I've now moved into the 21st century. One thing I wasn't sure was going to work was my old rotary dial phone. So I'm going to try phoning my cell phone from my rotary phone and see if it works. Okay. It says home calling. So I can answer it and put it on speaker. And it works. So it does dial out from a rotary phone. Now, I wonder whether I can dial my home number and see whether it will ring, because I have a sneaking suspicion that the ring voltage from the ONT is not going to be strong enough to ring one of these old ringers, and I'll probably have to disconnect the ringer inside the phone itself. So let's try dialing the phone. And that's all it did. And then it answered and hung up. If I try it again, and that's all it does. It just hangs up. It just answers. I hear the phone answer, and then it immediately goes dead. So the ringer in here is drawing so much current that it's actually killing all the phones in the house. So I'm going to have to disconnect the ringer on this phone. The phone should come apart. Remove the hook, and the whole phone should lift off the wall when I remove these screws. And now, on the button here, get into the ringer and just disconnect the bell. Get the whole flashlight out here, and just disconnect one of the wires going to the bell. Of course, that one doesn't want to fit. Loosen off the bell wire, and now we'll just try it. I'll just dial the phone again. This time I'll just hang it up manually and see whether the call will go through. If I hear the other phones in the house ring, actually I'd probably just set that like that if it'll balance. Okay, if I hear the other phones in the house ring, then the problem should be solved here. Problem solved. Hello? Hello? Yep, sounds loud and clear. So now I can use my good old phone. It won't ring anymore. No more authentic bell, but what it is the ringer drew so much current that it actually tripped the ONT into thinking somebody answered the phone. So if you've got an old one of these old mechanical phones, and you're trying to use it with a fiber system with an ONT, you'll probably need to disconnect the ringer. Now, not all of them, because I do have other old phones and the bell does ring on them. It just doesn't ring that well. It's a very faint ring. Another option, of course, would be to get a ring booster, which they sell for about $130. So is it worth $130 to have my mechanical bell ringing? Probably not to me, because there are other phones in the house that will ring, but at least I can still use this old phone. So now I just need to reassemble the case. I can just leave that wire sticking out there. It's not going to touch anything. Just put the cabinet back on. This is one of the things that was holding me off switching like 3 years ago, was my old phone. But working in the field and putting in fiber for the last couple of years, I had a couple customers that had old rotary phones. So I was able to test them and verify that it worked. Keep in mind, when you're working on any of these old Bakelite products, don't over tighten the screws or you'll break it. Thanks for watching.